Welcome. It is Coffee and Kayfabe. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you on this fine evening, sir?
I'm not good.
I'm
I'm
not good
very
either.
I'm not look, let me say this for everybody out there that's listening to the show. I did enjoy WrestleMania overall. I thought a lot of the matches were entertaining. Um but because I listened to a lot of Triple H interviews and maybe you do as well. And I just kept thinking he kept emphasizing that um the stories that they were telling, that they were going to splinter off and there was more to the stories. Um and I even listened to his interview last night after night one. But it's what you say, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And I watched night one. In the theme of night one, it literally let me knew what was going to happen on night two, which is why I was disappointed after night one because I knew where it was going. So I was very disappointed. Ultimately, yes, overall, again, entertaining WrestleMania, but when the final match with all that buildup, when it ends the way it does, and it was kind of de facto. Like I said, I knew how it was going to end. You know, the new thing now is if you have a family member or a spouse show up, you're almost guaranteed to win. Uh, you know what I mean? And all they have to do is say, "Just do it," as if it's Adrian talking to Rocky. You've wrestled all these years, you've never done it, and suddenly the spouse shows up and she's there in person and says, "Do it," and you can do what you never could do before. But overall, I enjoyed it.
I'll admit, I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach when I saw Brandy. I was not expecting to see Brandy. I looked to my wife when Brandy was there, and I said, "This is not good." She wouldn't just be here for the heck of it. But Mo, we will get to that in a moment. Let's jump backwards. Let's start with night one of WrestleMania. The big theme this weekend, Mo, was this is the new era. This is the new era of WWE. This is the Paul Levesque or the Triple H era of WWE. And we saw that right away. We saw that right away on night one. They opened with the national anthem. They did not open with America the Beautiful, which has been tradition since Vince was part of WWE. He actually liked America the Beautiful more than the national anthem, which is why he had that rendition done prior. So right away, you see that things are looking a little different. And then we jump into our first match, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. Mo, it was the right move for me to keep the belt on Rhea. Obviously, we see why as the weekend unfolds in totality and what they're doing with Judgment Day. But even in the moment, I looked at it and said a couple of things. My first thought was great way to start the show. It was a good match. It was a great opener. It kind of set the tone coming out of the gates. And both women put on a great performance. And in the end, if you looked at the match and you said who needed it more, Becky or Rhea, I think it benefits Rhea more to beat Becky than it would have benefited Becky to beat Rhea.
No, I agree 100%. I enjoyed the match. I was initially kind of bummed when Becky won and it was going to be that matchup. I thought, well, I don't know if Becky's the right one to face Rhea, but Becky brought it. It was a great match. Both women put on really great performances, and Becky did a terrific job of putting Rhea over. Even though Rhea is the champ, like you said, it meant more for Rhea. Now, to me, Rhea is part of a new era of WWE. So I got that. And I think that she's a dominant champion. I don't see her losing the belt anytime soon. I think she's going to have a longer or as long a reign as Roman Reigns.
And this is going to be something we're going to revisit numerous times over the next hour, is what the new era means, what superstars fit into that new era in WWE. Rhea Ripley is definitely one of them. And I'm going to set the stage now for you, Mo, because there's going to be two distinct categories that we're going to look at throughout the show tonight. It's going to be young, deserving talent, and it's going to be veteran talent that didn't have an opportunity. And there's going to be two distinct categories. And I think as we move on through the evening, all of our champions are going to fit nicely into one of those two distinct categories. The
Gotcha.
other thing I want to point out was that, and I heard some fans do this, and I saw some of this online. You can't compare Rhea Becky this year to Rhea and Charlotte last year. You can't.
No,
Rhea
no.
Charlotte last year might be one of the greatest women's matches that I have ever seen. It was never going to be that, and that's nothing against Becky. It was just never going to be that.
Look, Charlotte Flair to me is she's been as a women's champion as dominant as her pops was as a man champion. And the matchup between her and Rhea the first time, watching them go at it, that was one of the best matches I've ever seen, men or women. I'm talking all the false finishes, the back and forths, the high risk maneuvers. That was just two great performers pushing each other to an ultimate. And again, I'm with you. I'm nothing against Becky because it was a great match, but it's not fair to compare that match to the Charlotte and Rhea. That was on another level.
Mo, for me, I'm going 3 cups of coffee for Becky and Rhea. I think that, it looked a little better after some of the matches we're going to talk about next. But without letting those weigh into it, I think it's a solid 3 for me.
I agree. I'm going with a solid 3 cups.
Now, next up was the 12-man tag team match. This match got torn apart by most critics, Mo, but for one, I absolutely loved it. Obviously, when you put that many men into a match, you look at it and you say, this is just a chance to get everyone some WrestleMania shine. I understand that. But Mo, I look at it from the stance of this was a chance to get the belts off of the Judgment Day without the Judgment Day looking weak. And I think the match accomplished that, which I think is the big point. You didn't want to weaken the Judgment Day, especially with what happened in day 2 of WrestleMania.
Correct.
And at the same time, again, you do this 2 things we just talked about. You have the young up and coming, and you have the old veterans who never had an opportunity. Putting the belts on Waller and Theory is fantastic, in my opinion, because now you are giving them a reason to be on TV. Before, they weren't doing much. So you were forcing them on TV because you wanted to give them some shine. They're young heels. They're kind of funny, but you didn't have anything to do with them. Well, now you do because they're tag team champions. And on the other side of that, you have that veteran who hadn't had a moment in R-Truth having his first WrestleMania win. He was 0-7 coming in. Awesome Truth. Miz and R-Truth had never won tag team titles before, despite the success and popularity of their tag team. So that's a moment for Miz as well, being a veteran. So again, you got the veterans getting shine. You got the young guys getting shine. There were some great spots. McDonough took a ridiculous spot through a table, which was fantastic in my opinion. I liked it. I liked the match a lot. I liked the outcome a lot. And I liked how it kept the Judgment Day not looking weak.
I don't understand what the critics are smashing it about. I thought, like you said, they went out and accomplished everything they needed to in that particular match. The odds of the champions coming out, the champions, are slim to none. Like literally, the odds are stacked against you. And yet, in the match, the Judgment Day didn't come off weak. They were terrific in it, but it was chaos, right? And it was in the way that they lost. Again, they, like you said, it didn't make them look any less intimidating or talented. And I love it that Waller and Theory won because you need legitimately young, talented guys out there. And Theory, I thought for the longest time, they started to push him, and then he kind of came back to earth a little bit, and they didn't know what to do with him. Waller's very talented as well. They just kind of turned them into, I want to say, clowns for a while because they can be funny at times. But to put belts around them, like you said, it gives them TV time, and they're both heels, so they can become the tag team you love to hate. They're good enough to hold on to the belts for a significant amount of time. And obviously, look, the reason why it's one of my favorite matches is Miz and R-Truth won. Miz and R-Truth won. And I know they're not going to hold the belts for like a year or whatever, but they had this big moment on the biggest stage, and that's awesome for two guys who've already had great careers. I love that.
For me, it's going to be another 3 cups of coffee for this one. Again, you look at it, and it was a little chaotic at times. It was definitely a spot to get a lot of people onto the WrestleMania card. That usually happens every year. But there was never a point in the match where I thought it was filler. I never thought it was a waste of time. I didn't want to leave and go to the bathroom during the match. I liked what I was seeing. So for me, 3 cups of coffee.
I'm gonna go 3 as well. It was never stagnant. I was engaged the entire time, and I'm not going to lie. I thought at a minimum that the Judgment Day were going to walk out with one of those titles. So that was a match that actually surprised me. And again, if you told me when I saw our Truth climb up that he was going to go ahead and take it off, because the whole time I was like, hurry up, because like I was so scared for him. And then when he won it, nobody was happier than I was for him in Miz. So it was a great moment. It is one of my favorite matches of the entire WrestleMania.
Up next was Rey Mysterio and Andrade versus Escobar and Dirty Dom. Dominic Mysterio, and I know he's hated and I know people don't like him, Mo, but I can't stop looking at how far he has come in the year and a half, 2 years he's been doing this. Rhea Ripley talked about it after night one in the media scrum. She gave some shine to Dom, and deservedly so, because he's constantly learning, he's constantly evolving. You see him constantly tweaking the craft, and obviously he's not a main eventer right now, but he shines in the moments that he's given to shine, and even in a losing effort, he still looked good in the process. So that's about as much positive as I'm going to say about this match. I knew when it started, when there was an entourage for both sides, that it was going to be a lot of nonsense and a lot of extracurricular happening, and it was. And there was a lot of great luchador spots. I don't like Andrade as a face. I think it's weird. I don't
I
think
don't
he
either.
looks comfortable as a good guy. Ray was Ray, which is fine. Obviously, the Kelsey and Lane stuff was really cool if you were an Eagles fan or a fan of either of those players. Uh, but for me, it was pretty color by numbers. It was pretty a cut and paste. I'm gonna go 2 cups of coffee. It just wasn't anything special. It was a really good SmackDown main event, not necessarily a great WrestleMania match.
I kind of like the way you phrased that. It would have been a good SmackDown main event. Yeah, I think two cups is a lot. I'm gonna go 1.5. I didn't really enjoy the match overall. There was a lot of other stuff going on that wasn't even about the match. I think Dominic was the best part of the match for me. There was a couple of great luchador moves, but the overall match was just stagnant. And you're right, I don't like Andrade as a face. And I kept waiting the whole time. I was like, "Come on, I know Carlito's annoyed. Do something. Turn on Ray."
Yep,
Like,
never
like
happened.
it never happened. But bring me back in, and it didn't happen.
And it's been teased for a while now, because on the SmackDowns leading up to it, he was trying to get back with the good graces and he wasn't being accepted. So you thought that was eventually going to come, and then there was no payoff for it. But that led us to what came after, which is the Battle of the Brothers. Jimmy and Jay Uso. Mo, the best part of this match was the video package before the match happened.
It really was. That whole collage about them growing up and all the pictures and the
It was
training and
great.
the plan, that was fantastic. The match itself, it was the worst match of WrestleMania in my opinion. It was horrible. It was
It,
terrible.
and it wasn't close.
I mean, you know how you say you don't get up and get something to drink? My wife was like, "I thought you were watching this." I was like, "I'm not watching this." I got up and got something to drink and came back, and I didn't miss anything.
It's tough because this was 2+ years in the making. I mean, if you just watch the video package and you look at everything that transpired with the bloodline and how much of the bloodline storyline was dedicated to Jimmy and Jay to eventually set up this moment, and it's a moment that they always wanted all of their careers. And in the back of your mind, Mo, you kind of knew along the way, like, could they do it? Like, can they be singles superstars? And you always wonder in a tag team, which one is the single, which one is just a tag team wrestler. And then, they elevate Jay to be main event Jay Uso, and they kind of shove him down your throat. And you're kind of like, he does a great super kick, but then he was getting over and he had the yeet thing, and Jimmy's playing off of that with the no yeet thing.
Right.
So you're thinking, you know, as a tag team, they're magic and they're still working together. So even if they can't be great singles in the world by themselves, maybe they can put some magic on when they're singles against each other. It was a train wreck. It was hard to watch. Even the moments in the match where you saw that they wanted you to feel something, I felt nothing.
Right.
I had no investment at all.
Right. There's that moment where Jimmy's like putting his hands up in a defensive way, like no, you know, like no, and I'm sorry. And he's leading Jay to let his guard down, and you know where it's going. But as it's happening, like you said, I was like, "Oh, go ahead and swing on him. We know what's going to happen." But I'm with you. I wasn't invested in it. And I think you brought up a great point. Look, there were some terrific tag team that they thought one guy was projected to go to another level, and in the end you found out that both of them are just tag team wrestlers. Like, everybody doesn't get to be Shawn Michaels. I watched that match and I thought, you know what, and I actually posted it at one point. I said Jimmy's Mario Giannetti, then I thought maybe Jay is too. Maybe they're both Mario Giannetti and neither one of them is actually a single star.
Which is crazy because Jay's done well on Raw. Jay's had singles matches. He's had a couple of singles things happen, and he's held his own. He's looked all right, but not in that match. Even against a lesser performance given by Jimmy, it didn't elevate Jay. You didn't walk out of there saying Jay carried the match. You walked out of there saying, man, they both just fell flat, which I think is the most disappointing thing.
No, I agree. If I could do a do-over, maybe have Jimmy go or Jay go up against Solo. That would have been more interesting.
Next up was the Jade Showcase. Bianca, Jade, and Naomi versus Damage Control. Oh, cups of coffee. It was one for me, by the way, on the Uso match.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's brutal to go half a cup because, you know, I would never give myself half a cup of coffee. I love coffee, so I'll go one. I'll go one, and I think I think we're both being kind
because no one's drinking less than one.
Right?
It's one. The women's match did its job for me. It was supposed to be a showcase of Jade, and I think it was a terrific showcase of her. You knew Damage Control wasn't going to win that match. You knew that Damage Control's job going into that match was to make the other side look good, and they did look good. So for me, color by numbers, it made Jade look great. I'll go 2 cups of coffee because it wasn't anything spectacular, but it got the job done.
I'll go 2 cups of coffee as well. Not the greatest match in the world, but mission accomplished. They're there to push forward what Jade Cargill was going to be. And look, she was amazing. And like you said, going in, Damage Control had one job: make Jade look basically like a female Brock Lesnar, and that's what she looked like. And you know, it gives me hope in this way. I know at some point she's going to get a huge push, but I don't think they rushed that right away. The women's roster is so deep. I think they're going to let that simmer a little bit before they give her a push. And I don't think my idea of her becoming the leader of a faction for a year is the worst idea.
I will say this, though, Mo. I was not impressed with the 3 of them in the media scrum after night 1.
You watched that too, huh?
I did. Yeah. I thought it was weird at times. I thought it was borderline unprofessional at times. They weren't in character, so it's not like they were doing the Roman thing and it was meant to be that. I don't know what it was. And then they kind of broke into this righteous thing where I didn't quite know where that came from either. Because
Bianca started that. She started.
Yeah.
She went into this diatribe about, like you said, a whole righteous thing. Now, the whole time she's doing that, Naomi's like over to the other side of her. I think Naomi acted like she had something to drink or something. She was really bugging the whole time.
She was loose.
Right. She even told the other girl, she said, Am I getting on you guys' nerves yet? Like somebody should have said yes, yes. Yeah, I thought I thought they came out trying to come off like they're really good friends, but I felt like they were trying to seem like they were really good friends, and they're not really good friends.
Yeah, and it was because at one point Jade was like, "We're so much the same, but we're also different."
Right.
What?
Right.
What are we even talking about at that point? And then poor Byron's like waiting for him to stop talking for a moment so he can be like, "Next question." It was wild. It was absolutely
I
wild.
I thought they were as bad as Rhea Ripley was good.
Oh, she was great during her media scrum.
She really was. She really was.
She was captivating. She was flirting with the people that were asking her questions.
And smiling and joking the whole time, like you could tell she's built for this.
Yeah, 100%. That was a great comparison. Sammy versus Gunter. I'll let you go first because I don't
All
want
right, so here's the thing that I'm confused about. This is the part that so they're talking about a new age. Sammy's not new.
to.
He's not part of the new age. And if you really break down these guys as real life ages, Sammy's 39, Roman's 38. Cody's not new. He's 38. He's not new. He's just been around a long time and hadn't gotten over. I I don't dislike Sami Zayn, but Gunther had put together this amazing run. And for it to end, I just thought Sami Zayn shouldn't be the guy to take. You can. There's so many other wrestlers that are above Sami Zayn. That's what disappointed me. I just wanted more. If Gunther had to lose, I guess I wanted to be to a bigger talent, a bigger name, or for it to matter more. Because you and I and any fan both know out there, Sammy probably he could very well lose the title Monday.
Stop it. So Sammy falls into the category of the veteran who maybe hasn't been given the opportunity in the previous regime that many felt he maybe deserved. Obviously, this isn't a world title run for Sammy, but it's the closest you can get with it being the secondary title. But he's taking the secondary title off of historically one of the greatest Intercontinental champions of all time. But Mo, we talked about this on Coffee and Sports heading into this a few weeks ago. When we said it, we literally called it. The match was going to be great. The moment was going to be great. And then you were going to leave the moment saying, okay, Sami Zayn is now IC champion. Do we care going forward? And the answer is no, we don't, because he's still the same Sami Zayn he was heading into the match, right? He's the ultimate underdog, okay? Well, some people are better at chasing titles than they are at being champions. And Sammy is great at chasing a championship. But then you give Sammy the championship, and what are you left with? Well, you're left with great matches. He'll have great Intercontinental Championship matches
You will.
with whoever you put him against. But that's kind of, Mo, what's always held Sami Zayn back is he's lacked the story and the character to take him to the next level. And that's why when he was doing the stuff with the bloodline, that was the moment. If they were ever going to give him the belt, that would have been the moment because he was doing his best character work of his career at that time to go along with the fact he's always been a great wrestler and he's always performed well in the ring, but he's never been captivating enough for you to say, let's put the company on his back. I don't know what he gets from knocking off Gunther, just like I don't know what Brock Lesnar got when he knocked off The Undertaker. Like, you look at those moments and you say, okay, it's a moment, and it was a moment when he won, but going forward, I don't think it does anything for his career. It's not going to launch him into the World Heavyweight Championship picture. I
No, it
don't think
won't.
he's ever going to be the World Heavyweight Champion. So
Agreed.
if it's not going to be a launching platform for him to the next level, because we know where Gunther is going. He's going, that's where he's going. That's his next stop. So if it's not going to be a launching for him to get there, then what are we doing? So if I'm going just by the match,
It's a great match.
I'm gonna give it 3 cups. But I'm not a fan.
I'm going to give it 3 cups just on the match alone because I thought the match was terrific. I'm with you. I don't know where Sammy goes from here because that is Sami Zayn, right? The underdog who's constantly coming up just short. All those false. He's probably got more false finishes than anybody when it comes to being in big matches. He wins this, but like you said, he's the same Sami Zayn. He's not the kind of guy that carries the company. He's the kind of guy that is impactful in the company, but in a different role. I don't think this elevates Sami Zayn. I think it is a great moment for Sami Zayn. Don't get me wrong, but going forward, what are you going to do with the IC championship with Sami Zayn as champion? Because I joked about it. I don't think he's going to lose on Monday, but I don't think Sami Zayn is going to have a long. He's not going to have a run like Gunther as the champion.
No. And then, of course, we had the main event, Seth and Cody versus Rock and Roman. It was everything that we thought it was going to be. The Rock looked great in his official return to action, an actual wrestling match for the first time in almost a decade. He hasn't missed a beat. The storytelling was fantastic in that match for me. It hit all the cues. Obviously, like you said, once we saw the finish, we kind of knew where we were going for night 2. We were hoping there would be a swerve, but we'll get to that later on. But for me, this main event hit all the right notes. The Rock's entrance, I thought, was fantastic. I don't know why he felt he needed a People's Champion world title, but good for him.
It must be really nice to be the final boss. Like, you know what? On Hall of Fame night, I'm gonna have Muhammad Ali's wife present me with a People's Champion belt, and now he's walking around with it like he pinned somebody to win that belt. But okay,
it was great. I thought Seth and Cody did their part well. No complaints for me. I'm going 4 cups for that main event.
You read my mind. I'm going 4 cups. I thought all 4 performers put on a hell of a match. Cody was amazing. Seth, and look, it's all about storytelling. It's the biggest thing for me. You knew Drew said it. If you go around messing around trying to protect Cody's back and you get hurt, I'm not going to take it easy on you. And look, Seth was amazing. Got injured in the match. I was actually impressed. Triple H said something in his interview last night about Rock. I wasn't worried about the physical thing, but it's the instinctive stuff that Rock he knows the moment. He can feel when to. He said, I loved how calm he was in different situations. And I got that watching the match because he didn't try to do too much. He didn't miss a beat, but at the same time, I think he also realized this isn't my body from 1997. I just thought that he was Rock, but a different version of Rock. He put on. I just enjoyed that match. Every note was hit to set you up for tonight. And so, yeah, I'm going a strong 4 cups. Loved it.
And there were so many moments in that match, especially towards the end, where The Rock allowed things to marinate. And someone who hasn't been in the ring for 8 years and someone who hasn't been in a match that length in such a long time, you might think they would rush from point A to point B to point C because they're trying to get through it. And as the match carries on, how's his cardio feeling? He had 12 weeks to prepare for it, but training for it and doing it are 2 different things. You don't know how his body's feeling as the match goes along, but you never felt, at least from our point of watching it, that The Rock rushed anything. He let things breathe. He let the crowd react, and he was very much, at least seemingly, aware of the moment, which I thought was fantastic.
I like the way you put that. I thought he was very methodical. He would do a move, but he would kind of let the crowd react, right? Like he knew how to bring them in, get a reaction from them. Look, I think people forget as a heel, he's a great heel when he needs to be. Like he's a great heel. I remember loving to hate him at one point in his career. So I love what he did. I love what all 4 performers did. I really enjoyed watching Seth and Cody. Like I said, it was a great match. 4 cups easy. And it was one of those matches, Chris. As it was going on, I wasn't in a rush for it to finish. I was engaged, but I wasn't in a rush for it to finish.
It didn't feel like 45 minutes.
It did not. It did not.
The Rock threatening to fire the ref mid-match was also fantastic.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious. And then Pat McAfee going, did you hear what he just said? The final boss said, if you count or say anything else again, you're fired. Pat McAfee was like, that's right, Rock. He was there for it. I was like, and Michael Cole was just, that damn Rock. It's not right. I was
Not
loving
right.
it.
It's not
I
right.
was loving it.
So night 2 opens with a surprise. Night 2 opens with Stephanie McMahon's return to WWE. We haven't seen Stephanie since she walked away after the aggressive return of Vince a little over a year ago. So it was great to see Stephanie there. And then night 2, we saw America the Beautiful. So we didn't see it night 1, but we saw it night 2, and we saw Stephanie's return. So I thought all of those things were fantastic. And then that led us to something that I thought was probably a bit of a risk on paper, but watching it executed in front of us, Mo, the World Heavyweight Championship match was great. Now, obviously, Seth was a little banged up, but he's been banged up for the better part of the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So, but coming out of the gate with the finishers and then them just wailing on each other, finisher after finisher after finisher, it's tough because obviously seeing someone continuously kick out people's finishers, it diminishes the move. But because the action was so fast paced, it didn't really do that for me. I was kind of in the moment with it, and I don't think this could have worked for everyone, but I thought they did a good job with it.
I just thought they kept pushing each other, and like you said, right out the gate, McIntyre hits him with a finisher. I'm like, whoa, we're not playing. We're not playing. Okay, I said, okay, Drew. Okay, he don't care. He doesn't care if Seth was banged up. He told him he wouldn't care, and I think like when the Judgment Day lost their belts, the way Rollins lost in no way diminishes Seth Rollins. Matter of fact, he kicked out so many times of so many big moves and multiple claymores. I just thought that to me brought me into that match. That match was a lot like the match that ended night 1. It was fast paced, but I wasn't ready for it to end, and I knew McIntyre was going to win, but I also knew for some reason as soon as he started engaging with CM Punk, I was like, oh no,
Something's happening.
Something's wrong, because why can't he let it go? And when Punk clocked him, I was like, something, here comes Senior Money in the Bank. Like, oh no. Drew had the shortest title reign ever.
But again, in that moment, you see both. You see the young talent with he's not that young, but we perceive him as young because he's never reached the mountaintop in WWE. And then Drew had his moment as the veteran talent, winning the title again, but this time in front of people. So we had that moment in front of the fans. And then we have the cash in with the Money in the Bank, the interaction with CM Punk, which is going to progress that storyline because Drew is going to blame Punk for costing him the World Heavyweight title. Sure. Even though if Drew just let bygones be bygones and walked away, he wouldn't be in that situation. By the way, CM Punk looked very nice. He's very dapper.
I've never seen him look that smooth before. Yeah, he stepped up his game tonight. And like you said, Drew, if you just walk away and be satisfied with winning the belt, you still have the belt. Why you felt like you had to come over there, sit down on the table, push the belt towards that man, and talk.
It was
trash.
awkward. It was awkward.
Yeah.
Him crawling across the table
that was
weird.
Creepy. Tell me that wasn't creepy.
It was weird for me.
Yeah, and I actually thought I know that probably was what was supposed to happen, but knowing the kind of person that CM Punk is, I bet he thought when they told him that, like, that just seems creepy.
Like, why couldn't you just walk over and stand in front of him?
Like a regular person, right?
Right. But obviously everything comes full circle with the Judgment Day. You see the shot of them at the end. They're all happy for their guy. You got the Women's World Championship as well as the World Heavyweight Championship within the Judgment Day. They don't lose any momentum afterwards. And even the commentary. So if you watched Rhea in the scrum the night before, she was asked about, you were the only one who was successful tonight. Dom lost, all the guys lost, and she kind of in storyline, kind of in jest, was like, "Oh well, I'm gonna have to go talk to them." But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, mommy's always on top, kind of thing.
Right.
But then to see the cash in happen, and as they're on stage celebrating, I don't know if it was Cole or McAfee who said, I think it was Cole, that Rhea's whole thing with Senor Money in the Bank was be patient, pick the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
So even in that moment, you're doing a couple of things. You're re-solidifying the dominance of Judgment Day, but you're also re-solidifying the dominance of Rhea as being the one who is the glue to that group and the leader of that group,
Yes.
because she is. Even though the World Heavyweight
Agreed.
Champion is now in that group, I don't think there's really going to be any debate as to who is holding that group together.
No, she's the boss. And maybe Priest doesn't want to admit it. But he knows. I know the rest of them know. She's the glue. I think she's the brains. She's right. Wait, because the question came up. I was like you. I watched the interviews, and it was like, why is he holding on to the the suitcase? When's he going to use it? And Rhea was like, well, my guy's not going to go out there and risk getting injured. He's, I want my guys to wait. I want him to wait for the moment. He go and guess what? It's really interesting in the bigger picture. The WrestleMania ended up being a great WrestleMania overall for the Judgment Day. And, in terms of belts and a bad night for the Bloodline or a bad weekend for the Bloodline.
And again, the Judgment Day is still going to run Raw, even though they're not tag team champions. They have the new World Heavyweight Champion, and Rhea is still going to run the women's division. So again, the Judgment Day doesn't lose any stature, and you have a new first time ever World Heavyweight Champion to ring in the new era with Triple H. So it all kind of works out there. Next up was the Philly Street Fight. It was entertaining. I
think it was entertaining. It wasn't the worst match. It was okay.
Bubba was fun.
You know what? I got to tell you, I think Bubba might have been the best part of the, the match for me. It was so when Karrion Kross gets in his face and Bubba's like, "Who are you talking to?" And then he goes and reaches for the glasses. I was dying laughing. I was like, "You don't want that guy, not him." I swear it would have made it that much better had in that moment Bubba had a turn and Devon came out of nowhere and it was like, "Devon, get the tape." I would have died.
There was a little table mishap in that match, but they were able to get a new table and fix it, and everything went on. Damn, how the mighty have fallen with Bobby Lashley, though.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, because you would know better than I am. I think we're both wrestling fans, but I think you're more of an aficionado than I am. Bobby Lashley, to me, I get how some veterans can fall off. Maybe their bodies break down or they don't look as good as they did in their peak. But if you just physically look at him, I don't want to look at his age. I'm just talking about look at him as a performer, what he can do. I don't want to say they've turned him into a jobber, but they've turned him into he went from being a main event guy to a mid card guy, and I just think he's fallen unnecessarily. I'm not saying he's got to be world champion, but he seems like he could still be more relevant than they've made him. I mean, you've got him now in these 6-man battles with Kieran Cross and I just and the thing about it is the winner of that match, what does it do for either, if you want to call them factions? It doesn't do anything. Neither one of them are up to be tag team champions. I don't see the path forward as an individual competitor for Bobby Lashley. Like at this point, he might as well be at the announcer table.
I mean, if you look at Bobby, two things have always hurt him. He's not great on the mic, and he's never really had a character or a persona. So the Goldberg thing has really only worked for one person, and that was Goldberg. You've seen other wrestlers try to mimic the Goldberg thing in different iterations or different variations. Maybe, and I'm sure there's probably others that I'm not thinking of, But for me, Braun Strowman sticks
that's a good
out.
example.
Monster Among Men, very similar to the unbeatable Goldberg side of things. But that's what Bobby Lashley should be, right? He should be this dominant force that you can't stop. He should have a mouthpiece like a Paul Heyman.
I was gonna say he needs a Heyman.
He had an MVP, but they took MVP away from him
Yeah, I didn't
and
get
gave
that.
MVP to Omos, excuse me. So without a mouthpiece and without a real character, yes, he's the almighty Bobby Lashley, but what is the almighty? It's just this big guy that no one should be able to beat, but yet he's working with jobbers in Karrion Kross, who's trying to redefine his career after he failed initially coming up from NXT. So, yeah, he's in a tough spot. And then you look at his age and you realize he probably doesn't have another run coming. So maybe he's your next IC champion.
Or because I do think guys like him, you're at that odd spot where you could still compete, but you're not young, you're not fresh, and he's probably had his peak run, right? He was a heavyweight champion. I don't see that in the cards for him. And I think initially they wanted him to be almost like a manager to the Profits, right? But the Profits are one of those teams that they frustrate me because you look at them and you go, I can see the talent. You can see where they should be right in the thick of the tag team picture, and yet they seem to always come up short. And I don't know if it's a reluctance or Triple H isn't seeing something from them, and maybe even the crowd, because how the crowd reacts to them also impacts them as well. And I don't want to call they're not jobbers. Obviously, they're not jobbers, but they seem to be stuck in mud in terms of where their career is going.
And you would think being married to Bianca Belair would get a little rub or a little push up the left, but it doesn't seem to be working out for them. Yeah. I'm going a star and a half, a cup and a half for that match. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't
great either. It was what it was better than the Uso match. Right. I'll give you that. Star and a half for me, a cup and a half for me as well. It was better than the Usos. I'm starting to think that we could have put on a match better than the Usos.
LA Knight versus AJ Styles. You can start here as well, because I don't think I can say anything positive about LA Knight.
So when we're in the chat,
it was nice that he gave that lady a car.
That was cool.
That was nice.
Brand new. It was a GT. What was it? Dang, I forgot what it was. But it was a Slim Jim car, but it was really nice. Yeah, right. Yep. Not. Can you really imagine her driving it? I can't. But yeah.
She got to pay taxes. She got to pay taxes on that too.
Yeah. So is it really helpful? No, look.
What a jerk.
Right. I'm not the biggest LA Knight fan, and so it wasn't a bad match. It was a mediocre match. Let me put it that way. I thought it was mediocre. I'm not the biggest LA Knight fan. I still don't get it. I don't get it. As I'm watching it, I don't get it. I'm looking at AJ Styles and going,
you're better than this.
Why does he got to sink down to that guy's level? So look, because you look at AJ Styles, even though he didn't hit on his finisher, the fact that he still has that kind of athleticism to do that kind of move, like, what a waste of talent. That's my opinion. You might disagree. I just think it's a waste. It's a waste. You could do more with an AJ Styles than have him fighting the modern era version of Macho Man. I just can't stand. Every time he does that thing, it drives me up the walls.
I also don't like LA Knight. Obviously, he's very over with the fan base. He deserved to be at WrestleMania. He's done great work the past 6 to 8 months with the opportunity that he's been given. 2 cups of coffee. That's all I got.
I'll go with 2. You know what? It's one of those rivalries. What I felt from Drew and Seth, I didn't feel none of that for those two, and they're supposed to hate each other. There was just something missing there. And look, sometimes you try to build up a rivalry and that heat or whatever you need in the performance when it all comes together. It doesn't for those two.
I just think it's, and also keep in mind that the storyline there is flimsy at best, right? So AJ gets taken out by the bloodline, and then he steps up and takes AJ's spot because AJ is no longer there and healthy to be able to compete. So AJ comes back and he's angry because you took my, like, that's the premise to where this all began. So when you have a flimsy storyline going into it and you're trying to build a months-long feud off of what was already a flimsy foundation, it's tough. It's tough to have the emotional buy-in. And then you're looking at it and you're like, do I really buy AJ as a heel? Am I really invested in heel AJ Styles? And you look at LA Knight and you're like, well, am I really invested in LA Knight at all? And then the match was mediocre. So it's just, you put it all together and it wasn't bad, but it also wasn't great. And that's where we are. That's where we are with that one, Mo.
2 cups for me, and I think 2 cups is fair.
You had to force the second cup down, though.
It was, you know what it was? It's that cup where the light on your coffee maker's gone off, and it's gone off, and it's been off for like a half hour, so it's lukewarm coffee. It's not good. It's not good.
Logan Paul, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens. I expected more from this match. Going into it, and I don't know why I thought Logan Paul was going to lose when his company was on the mat. Like halfway through the match, I was like, he's not going to lose. His company is all over the arena.
Correct.
There's him winning this match was definitely part of the deal.
I went into this match, and it's funny you said that because it was the one title I knew wasn't going to change hands. I was certain this one wasn't going to change hands. Mostly because of what you just said. His company's on a thing. Dude's like, if I got to give it up, it won't be at this pay-per-view. It won't be a WrestleMania, maybe the next one. But he wasn't going to lose. And then, of course, the idea that Kevin Owens and Orton are buddies, it just sets you up to how it was going to finish, because at some point they're going to compete against each other. And remember, the champion's job is just to survive, because every time he's in trouble, one of them is going to save him. Like, they're actually his allies in that match. So I just didn't see how he was going to lose.
You look at Logan, and I get people don't like him, but the heel version of Logan Paul is everything you need in a WWE superstar. He's uber athletic. He's becoming better and better every match. And when you're a heel, you don't have to go in there and have Sami Zayn 5-star matches every match. You just have to hit spots, and then you have to have good storytelling and unique ways for you to steal a win. And that's what Logan Paul has done. And it works as a heel. I don't think he's ever going to be a face. If he ever was a face, obviously he would have to work more in ring stuff than he's currently doing. But they're booking him well. They're playing to his strengths. They're allowing him to showcase his athleticism inside the ring. And they're coming up with finishes that fit his character. So this finish, he tried to cheat. It didn't work. Randy Orton dropped eye speed like a sack of potatoes on that table. But in the triple threat setting, like you alluded to, you can still kind of squirm your way out of trouble just by allowing the other two to do the work for you, which is what he did, which is what you've seen happen time and time again in triple threat matches when there's a heel in there, is they don't necessarily win the match. They just take advantage of someone else doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And that's what Logan did. So it all worked for me in the end.
No, I enjoyed this match. I expected more, but I did enjoy it. And the ending, it just made sense in terms of the storytelling, because Randy hits Owens with an RKO, and here comes Logan, right? Johnny on the spot chucks Randy out the ring, and he hits this monster splash. And the elevation, like, this guy, like you said, he is a natural. Are there things he can work on? Yes. But when you use that term, he has it.
The runner-up, for me, 2.5 cups for that one. 2.5 cups.
I'll go 2.5 as well. I thought it was a good match, a solid match.
The runner-up to the main event was Bayley versus Io Sky. I think we knew the outcome going in. We were just looking for, at least I was looking for two things. I was looking for Bayley's presentation, which I thought was spectacular. And then I was hoping that they would put on a match where the crowd was invested. Halfway through, I was very concerned because the first half of that match was kind of slow. The crowd wasn't super into it. But about midway, they were able to pull him back in, and they were firmly behind Bayley. And it was a really cool moment for her. I'm going to go 3 cups for this one. I was happy with everything from about the middle of the match on.
I'm going to go 3.5 cups because I thought Bayley's performance was amazing. But the truth is, for me, the fan, in a loss, Io Sky impressed me more. She impressed me more with the kind of talent that she is. Like she's clearly the superior wrestler and athlete, but Bayley's performance was amazing, and she put Bayley over in such a way. Like, I look at Io and I'm like, all right, this is Bayley's moment, and she's deserving of it. But Io Sky is going to be a champion again somewhere down the line. She's amazing.
And again, you go back to the beginning of our show tonight, we had young up-and-coming talent, deserving veterans. Bayley is going to fall into that deserving veterans category. Yeah. Never had a singles match at WrestleMania. Her first singles match at WrestleMania results in her becoming the women's champion. And then, of course, we have the main event. I saw Brandy. I was concerned. I kind of knew where we were going. I was hopeful. I tried to be suspended in the moment. And it just didn't end the way I wanted it to end. But let's talk about the ending. So obviously, we had the match. And then we had all of the extracurricular stuff before we finish the match. So obviously, the Bloodline's going to make their appearances. Jimmy comes out first, delivers a super kick to prevent a crossroads. Jay gets rid of Jimmy. Then Solo makes his appearance. Cena comes down to get rid of Solo. I have to say, once again, The Rock stole that moment. The way
you know what got me was it you for me? Thank you. For me with Rock, Chris, it was the way he came to the ring. Like, he was already upset. He was pissed off.
It was like Dad.
Yeah,
Dad got home, and Dad got called on the way home that you were acting up. And from the moment Dad got out of the car, you knew what was coming.
He came down to that. He was so upset. I was like, it didn't even look like he was acting. He was heated.
He was heated.
Like you said, he stole that moment. And look, him and Cena, they faced off and they're looking at each other, and I'm like, yeah, he's getting rock bottom, and he got rock bottom. I knew that was coming. I'm not gonna lie, I did not know Taker was gonna show up. That one got me. I didn't know Taker was gonna show up. It really was. Undertaker's one of my favorite performers. It was an amazing moment. Again, if all those icons hadn't shown up, the match itself was actually a great match anyway. It was so many false finishes alone on that on the strength of Cody and Roman alone. It was a terrific match. I'm not saying those interferences interrupted, because you knew with Bloodline rules, if Roman was going to be in trouble, you knew at some point Jimmy, Solo. I didn't know for sure if The Rock would show up, but sure enough, he comes stomping down to the ring, and I'm like loving every minute of it. So I absolutely enjoyed it. I'm like you. It just didn't end the way I wanted to. When in the moment as it's happening, I'm like, I'm booing. He hadn't even pinned him yet, and I started booing. I was like, I know where this is going. And I'm booing, and my wife is like, the match isn't even over yet. And I'm like, oh, it's over. It's over. I'm like, this dude is he's hit him with that move 3 times in a row. He's pausing now. I'm like, it's over.
The Shield thing surprised me. I didn't see that coming.
Seth comes out in full Shield gear, right?
Yep, yeah. I didn't see that coming. For a moment, I was like, is it gonna be Seth? Or is it gonna be the other one? So for a second there, I didn't know. And then obviously Taker was a surprise. Fans, there's a lot of speculation going into this match. There was rumors that we might get Austin. There were rumors that we might get Goldust. Obviously, Goldust is under contract, I believe, still with AEW. Not
He
quite
is.
sure.
He
I
is.
believe he's still under contract there. Austin was a rumor for a hot minute. Obviously, if Austin was there, he would have filled the Undertaker role. My guess is that Austin probably wasn't available or didn't want to do it.
Right.
But with the history of Rock and Austin at WrestleMania, I think that would have been a better fit
That would
in
have been
that
great.
moment. But at the same time, if you look at the history of Undertaker and Dusty Rhodes and the relationship
Good
that
point.
they had, that's also a cool first full circle moment for the Undertaker being a part of that for Cody. So it all kind of worked out. For me, I don't think there was an ending that would have worked where I would have been like, it was deserving to take the title off of Roman. I don't know what that. I don't think this was the ending, but I don't think there is an ending. I think when you have someone who is champion for 1,316 days, I don't think there's an ending you can come up with to where you look at it and go, "Yep, that's the perfect." Like, what does that look like? They pulled out all the stops. They brought in the big names. They tried to create this moment. And let's not take away. It's not like Cody needed these people to help him because they weren't beating up Roman Reigns. They were there to remove the interference of the bloodline.
Correct.
So, if you take out all the extracurricular stuff, we're still good. So the only person who got beat up through all that was Cody. Cody took the spikes. Cody took the super kick. Roman wasn't really touched at all throughout most of that. So,
which is amazing because at one point he took a spear and a spike at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so don't get me wrong. I get it. Sometimes you're able to kick out of a guy's finisher or whatever, but he kicked out of basically two guys' finishers. Like, I'm just saying, like, all of a sudden everybody's getting this little Hulk Hogan strength where they're just kicking out everybody's finishers, and that I'm not trying to be a wrestling snob, but that drives me a little nuts. Because you said it earlier, it kind of diminishes the finisher.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's tough because and there still might be, because let's look at this logically. So obviously Cody again falls into that veteran who never had the opportunity. It's his first world championship title reign. But if you look at where the bloodline stands, Rock never turned on Roman. So the bloodline in theory is still united. Rock, Roman, Solo, Heyman. So what does that look like on Friday on SmackDown? Like, are they going to come out? Are we going to see a Rock Cody match? Are we going to see a rematch? I don't think they're going to give the belt back to Roman, because why bother at this point if you're going to break up the streak? So does he get it and Cody just beats him? Does he get it and The Rock turns on him? There's more story to tell with the bloodline, which, by the way, that could have been what Roman was referring to. Roman could have been referring to the fact that there is more story to tell. It just doesn't involve me being champion.
At least for now.
For now.
Because I'm sure down the road, Roman Reigns is going to be wearing a belt again. He's still the big, to me, he's still the biggest guy in the company. I know Cody just won the belt, but I think Roman's still the guy. He might be out of the picture for a little bit, and maybe it's one of those things where he's going to take a long needed rest, right? It's one of those things where you take a step back and let somebody else shine and carry the load, which is great. This is Cody's moment. And maybe that was the theme. Most belts changed hands, other than, like I said, I knew Paul's wasn't going to change hands. I knew that wasn't going to happen. I think of all the people who have new belts that are new champions, I think Cody's going to have a solid run. I think Sammy's going to have a shorter run. I think Truth and Miz, even though I don't want to say this, but if I'm being honest, they're going to have the shortest run. And I think Waller and Theory can actually surprise people and be a very good tag team champion.
Yeah, they'll cheat to win. They'll do their thing.
And you hate and you love to hate them. So I like them, like you said, with belts on them, because before they were just the two goofy guys.
I think Bailey's gonna have a pretty decent run too as
Yeah,
women's
I agree
champion.
with that. I forgot about Bailey. I think Bailey's gonna have a good run. Bailey might hold on to it for a while because, like I said, I don't think they're in a rush to push Jade too fast. I do think the faction thing isn't a bad idea for her because she can still be out front, but you're not pushing her so much as a singles competitor. You're letting her still develop her skills and her character.
Cups of coffee for the main event. I'm gonna go 3.5. I don't think it was as good as the previous night's main event. Again, I don't know. I don't know what an ending where Roman loses the belt looks like where I walk away content with it. I think they did the best they could. I think they tried to make it as epic of a ending as they could for the 1,316 days coming to an end. I think it was a valiant effort, but I think that they were in a situation, Mo, where no matter what they did, short of I literally couldn't even suggest something right now that would have, like, even if Austin was there, I think I still would have felt the same way. Like I don't know what it would have been.
I think there's only one ending that would have satisfied me. I guess satisfied me if you're talking about storytelling. It could have been Rock had turned on Roman. That that
Yeah,
could have
I
happened,
guess if that
and that
happens, it makes
because
sense.
that could have you wouldn't see that coming. I wouldn't, but that would have surprised me. And I was like, oh, that's how he lost because maybe Rock bottles him or something, or does something to help him or help his opponent out. But like you said, yeah, because when you're the champion that long, I know everybody's reign has to come to an end, and maybe that's why I was like, it's not that I dislike Cody Rhodes. I don't dislike Cody Rhodes. I'm with you. I don't know how Roman Reigns losing looks in a way where um and like you said, there was this buildup, right? It was like, well, it's Cody's last chance, and if he doesn't get it done now, he'll never get it. And when I kept hearing people kept saying that, and then it was all when you start hearing that kind of stuff, the buildup is, and it's bloodline rule. The buildup was it's me against the world, and somehow Cody came out on top against all odds, basically. And I maybe that's why they did it the way they did it. Suddenly out of nowhere, he's got help from Cena's helping him out, and Seth comes to the ring. Taker comes out of nowhere, but like you said, Taker does have a history with his father. That one made sense, and maybe that's why all of that happened because even Triple H was like, I don't know exactly the perfect way for you to give up the belt. There is no perfect way for you to give up the belt. So why not do it this way? And you just rip the band-aid off and let's just go forward. And maybe that's what he did.
And it's going to be interesting moving forward because now you have to look at it and say, what does the tribal chief look like when he's not champion? Does he just take time off and we just don't see him for a while and then he pops back up 2 or 3 months down the road? Which means by default, do we not see The Rock or Solo or Jimmy or Paul Heyman for a few months either?
Mm.
Does he come out and do the heel thing and be like, you needed John Cena and Seth Rollins and, kind of do the cowardly complaining kind of thing and demand a rematch? And then he loses the rematch and goes away for a little bit. Does he come out and blame the bloodline? Does he come out and he's like, you know what? You had one job. It was bloodline rules, and Rock and Solo and Jimmy, y'all couldn't get the job done. And
That
that's where
I
it
could see
goes.
happening. That I could see happening on Friday. I could see. Matter of fact, Roman might not even be there. That's one of those deals where Heyman acts like he's getting a text, and my tribal chief said what happened was the final boss and Solo and Jimmy, you didn't get it done.
You let him
You're
down.
the you know what I mean? You're the
Yep.
reason why. And the tribal chief is not happy with any of you.
It could be. It could be. Overall, Mo, it was a very entertaining WrestleMania 40. I think I would give the show 4 cups of coffee overall. I think it's probably the most overall entertainment out of WrestleMania we've seen probably in the last 4 or 5 years. Um, if you take out the Uso match, there wasn't a match on the card that wasn't entertaining. Like every WrestleMania, you have a match or two where you're like, ugh. But even the matches that had the lesser talent in it, like the Philly street fight, it was still entertaining.
It
You
was.
still watched it and you chuckled a little bit. The Bubba Ray stuff was funny. With the exception of the Usos match, everything was good. It was entertaining.
I could even tolerate the match with the LWO and all that kind of stuff. That was even entertaining to a degree. Like you said, if you remove the Usos match, maybe I take it up to 4.5 stars. Do you know what I mean? Like overall, because it was a very this is not a wrestling fan that has sour grapes about the WrestleMania. I completely enjoyed it. I'm just a sad sack because I guess I wanted Roman Reigns to his story to go on maybe for another year.
Me too.
But like you said, Roman alluded to in his interview, I think Rock did too. There is more story there, but it might be about the story without Roman with the belt, and that's okay. If it's a great story, I'm here for it.
I am here for it as well. That's going to bring us to an end. Make sure that you are with us in about 4.5 weeks. We're here after every premium live event. Chase will be back with us next time. But more importantly, make sure that you're with us in about 8.5 hours. Coffee and Sports, the morning show. We're going to get your week started. Well, it's already Monday morning on the East Coast. So we're going to get the latter part of your morning started in a few hours with breaking down everything that happened over the weekend in the world of sports. So make sure you're here with us for that. Mo, close us out, sir.
Appreciate everybody that watched us live. Everybody will watch Chris and I later. Check out all the content that we have for you at the Wire to Wire Network. Make sure you check out all our stuff, all your support, all your follows, likes, and subs is greatly appreciated. Check out the Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you.
Again, we'll be back here after the next WWE Premium Live.